Hello and welcome to another episode of the Firearms Insider Gun and Gear Review Podcast. This is episode 65. On this show, we showcase gun reviews, gear, and anything else a gun enthusiast may be looking for. We strive to evaluate products from an honest and unbiased perspective. I'm your host, Ryan Cross, on the Firearms Radio Network, your source for broadcasts for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. Today, I have with me Chad in the house. Thanks for joining me, Chad.
Yep, I'm here.
And we're going to talk about some awesome new products that are coming out just a week before SHOT Show. Companies are really starting to let loose the dogs of war and let us all see what they're going to be featuring this year for 2015. So before we get into that, have you done anything on guns this week, Chad?
I sorted some brass, and then I cleaned some brass, and I think that's about it. I need to work up a load with some heavier bullets for that AR I finished putting together a while back.
Right on. I managed to go duck hunting, and we did pretty well. Me and my dad and his best friend, and I think we were one mallard or one drake short of our 3 limits, so we did pretty well. Yeah, I just realized that it's a lot like my day job where I'm sitting on my butt for 8 to 12 hours, and I get scolded for doing something wrong, and then I get little to no praise for doing something right. So kind of put things into perspective, like, this is why I don't duck hunt as much as I hunt other things, because I miss walking and exercising and not getting blood circulation.
I thought you didn't duck hunt because it's always cold when duck season is, and you're sitting there cold and freezing to death, and then you jump up and try to shoot a duck about every 2 hours.
Yeah, it really depends. This time it was actually a really good flight, where in the morning, you probably had a shot or two every 15 or 30 minutes, and then, we missed our fair share for various excuses that I don't need to get into, but, the afternoon flight was just hot. I mean, there was just, pairs and little flocks of a half a dozen to big old flocks flying all over the place, and we went from having only about 5 ducks to 20 ducks in just a matter of a couple hours. So it was really fun. Not too cold, but yeah, that's one big reason why duck hunting is you need to dress appropriately, and it seems like 4 layers is the minimum, or else you're really going to start to get cold sitting in one spot, not moving. But it was still awesome, and I got duck meat in my freezer, which is like the most important payoff to me. Is I miss having a little bit of duck in the frying pan.
Yep.
So anyway, let's get right into the announcements. Of course, we're always welcoming new guests on the show. Wanted to have some more guests on, but just get scheduling and whatnot. So if you're interested in coming on the show, send me an email, cross@firearmsradio.tv. We would love to have you on. Also, SHOT Show is next week. It's getting a little too late to ask for more requests. I've already had a couple people email me asking about handguns and what's Glock got going on and things like that. So actually, the format for next week's episode 66, I'm thinking about trying to do a microcast from Vegas, from the SHOT Show Expo, and maybe answer some questions from the panelists. So Chad, and TJ, and anyone else that's able to join, and just maybe kind of share my observations, being it'll be my first time there. See like what's the maybe like top 3 unexpected products that are like getting the most attention and people are really talking about. Also share what industry day at the range is like. Hundreds of people flocking to a shooting range. It's bound to be a little interesting. So I think that's the format for next week. I don't know how long it'll be, but we'll try and make it quick so I'm not burning any extra daylight and I can get back to walking the floor. So first up this week in the new products is something that I just saw today, and I immediately had to add it to the show notes for this episode because this is something that neither was I expecting, but man, do I want it. and I think everybody needs to have at least one. Um, Everyone loves the PMag that Magpul puts out. It's like, the bar it had been set when they released those magazines, and there's been lots of imitations and so on. Well, Magpul is taking a crack at the drum magazine, and with their PMag D60, and D obviously stands for drum, and 60 is the capacity, it holds 60 rounds. So it's made out of polymer construction, undoubtedly with some steel on the inside. It looks like you'll be able to disassemble it pretty easily. It looks like it had like 4 latches that you can just kind of pop off and disassemble the front of the drum. And I did see a lever for loading to make it easier. So the only real information that's been circulating is kind of the same little blurb. So I'm reading it right off Magpul's Facebook page. It says, the PMag D60 60 rounds, reliable, durable, lightweight, shorter than a 30-round mag, and full of features that make it extremely easy to use. It's got an MSRP of $129.95, so $130. And then they have a video. They say, please note that the transparent back and cutaway versions were for testing purposes only. So only the solid drum with round indicator window is the variant that's going to be offered for sale. So in the video they had like a transparent back, and they had kind of one that looked skeletonized, but it was actually just a cutaway to demonstrate the rounds cycling inside the drum when the mag was being emptied. So it should be expected to ship out to distributors in the spring, summer of 2015. But of course, you can catch a sneak peek with the drum at Range Day at SHOT Show, which I will do my very best to fight the lions and bring you some footage of that, or at least some more photos. So, what do you think about that, man?
Oh, I hadn't actually heard of this until you posted it in the show notes, and I'm like, oh, that's just something that I don't really need to know that they make. The company here makes one, and the aluminum one, but I'm looking at the Magpul one going, they're going to drop that price, and they're going to sell thousands of these. And they're just, and if they have the loading gate kind of deal like you were saying, you're not going to beat it even for the $130 they're asking.
Yeah, well, it looks like you still load it from the top of the magazine.
Right.
But I think if there's some kind of issue or you need to maintain it, you can pop those latches off and disassemble it pretty easily. But the biggest thing is the weight. I mean, 60 rounds alone is heavy, but if you have it constructed out of polymer instead of steel or aluminum, obviously that magazine is not going to weigh as much.
Yeah.
And Magpul, they don't make crap out of polymer. They actually design it very well. So I'm very interested to see how this functions and how well it works. Ideally, I'd like to see, I think, the MSRP street price, hopefully bring it below $100. I think that people would justify spending that much. Maybe if it was closer to 80, it would sell a lot more. Like everyone who owns a PMag will at least go pick up a D60 just to have one. And I think that everyone that's making actually CNCing ones out of steel are going to have to do something to combat this being on the market, like bring the prices down.
Yeah, if nothing else, the aluminum metal ones, they'll probably have to drop the price because they'll stop selling them once Magpul actually brings these out.
Yeah.
Spring, summer.
And it does hold 60 mags, which of course most of those drum mags that are out there only hold 50. So you get an extra 10 rounds. Probably the weight of those extra 10 rounds is offset by the polymer construction. So I'm interested to see how much it weighs fully loaded with like some 55 grain standard stuff compared to it's equal in the steel version. With their like X Products, one of their mags. But yeah, I think it's very cool and something I was like, oh, what? Way out of, I guess not left field, but I was kind of not really taken with Magpul's latest release stuff. It's like, okay, you know, the MBUS sights or the pros, and then
Right.
the canted version and the M-Lock stuff. So like I kind of miss some innovation, not just filling little tiny niche holes in the market, but actually like, you know, filling big holes, um, and causing a shakeup. That's what I like. So stay tuned
Yeah.
for that.
The thing is with that, I'm gonna lead you into the next product, which actually hit me by surprise. The drum mag doesn't surprise me as much as this next product that you put in the show notes.
Yeah, this is what I was super excited for. Like, I had to talk about this tonight on the show, because this is something that I actually will 100% buy. And Magpul is kind of stepping in. Everyone kind of remember when the 870 and the Mossberg 500 products came out. It was like, oh, Magpul's making shotgun products, cool. And then everyone who had an 870 wanted to get their furniture kit and throw it on theirs. Well, now Magpul's taking a step into the bolt-action rifle market, and they're coming out with a chassis for the Remington 700, and they call it the Hunter 700 or the Precision Hunter. So it's a chassis stock system, and the actual the pistol, or not, I'm sorry, not the pistol grip, but the grip and the stock actually are very similar to the SGA shotgun stock that they have. As far as the grip angle, it uses the same. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's virtually the same thing, but it's been molded onto a rifle chassis with a fore end on there. So you can utilize the same SGA cheek combs to change your cheek weld. It uses the same length of pull spacers. So it looks like there's some interchangeability there. But the coolest part about this, above all else, is that it will take PMags. So it's right now it's short action only, and it looks like it'll readily accept some magazines that are pretty common. And they do have the ability to use let's see, the PMag 762AC magazine is an AICS compatible magazine that's made out of polymer, kind of anti-tilt follower. So the MSRP on that is $34.95. So it's not like an actual PMag, but they're remaking a short action, 762, so that's 308, in a AICS pattern that'll be accepted in this. There'll also be if you, let's see, remove a spacer, which only takes about 30 seconds, and insert a hybrid steel and polymer bolt-action magazine well, which will MSRP for $69.95 and includes one magazine. It'll be able to accept the actual steel AICS magazines, or the polymer ones. But so their magazine and the AICS magazines, it looks like you'll be able to swap out some inserts in the ACT magazine well to change out which magazines you want to use. I'm not completely sure what's the better one to use. This PMag 762AC model, it looks like it holds 5 rounds as packaged to comply with most hunting regulations, but they say if you clip the follower stop on a pre-scored line on the magazine, it becomes a 6-round magazine, which is useful in competitive shooting disciplines or just for that one extra round. So I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work. Like if you have to remove the base plate and do something else with the follower, a little bit of disassembly and reassembly to be able to squeeze that extra round in.
Yeah, that would be my guess, is pop the magazine apart and then I guess cut wherever the line is, and it just probably shortens the follower.
Yeah. So it says it does feed PMags, new AICS compatible PMags. So I mean, I got this 300 Blackout Remington 700. I want to be able to throw this in this stock and have the ability to use regular PMags, the 223 PMags, the 10 rounders or the 5 rounders. So I don't know if the AR-15 magazines are going to be compatible in this, much like the Mossberg MVP, or if you're going to have to use that new family of PMags that are, AC. So it looks like the stock itself, the Hunter 700, has an MSRP of $259.95, so $260. It's built around a ruggedly anodized aluminum bedding block, utilizes standard Magpul SGA cheek riser and spacers from the Shotgun line, features forward M-lock slots as well as multiple points to mount swivel studs and QD sockets, as well as your bipod or a rail, so you can put your accessory on there. The weight is 2.9 pounds, which is like huge. Other chassis that claim to be lightweight, they don't come close to 2.9 pounds. So this would make probably the lightest chassis you can get for a Remington 700 or most any bolt action rifle. And of course, if you just want to drop in your regular Remington 700 BDL, your standard factory hinged floor plate bottom metal, and not run a magazine, it can do that too. So that's pretty awesome. I am definitely getting one of these. I like the pictures that they've shown so far. It's got a very enlarged trigger guard, and it looks like you'll be able to get some gloved finger in there pretty well. I'm not seeing where the magazine release is. It looks like it might be on the side of the trigger guard, on the right side, so you can actuate it with your index finger. Let me do some zooming and enhancing here. Yeah, it looks like it's on the front of the trigger guard. It's hard to tell though, because it's a small picture. But there's two studs, or the hex screws or the Allen screws, right into the side of the stock, so it kind of makes it look industrial. So if you don't like that look, obviously it's going to be made out of that same DuPont polymer that they like to use. And just like the SGA stock, it does have a loop for a sling, as well as those points where you can put a QD stud and run your sling that way. Very interested in this. Obviously, hopefully it's going to be free-floated. The aluminum bedding block tells me that it most definitely probably is. I really like this idea, and the fact that you're still under $400 to be able to run whatever magazines you want out of it. And it's standalone. It's still cheaper than the Magpul UBR, which is like I think their most expensive stock for AR-15s.
Yeah, you're getting at that price. I mean, with all the features it has, it's going to be a hot seller, I think.
Yeah. And I just picked up a Modular Driven Technologies, MDT. They make polymer AICS patterned magazines. So I just bought one, a 10 rounder, and it was like under $40. And I loaded up with 10 rounds of 308, and I put it in my rifle, and it was like really snug with almost no wobble at all. I was surprised how well it fit for being a polymer magazine fitting into an aluminum bottom metal. So I'm going to do a review on one of those, but if I don't know the price of, what did I say their magazines were going to run?
$34.95.
Yeah, so I mean there's lots of magazine options now instead of just the ICS steel magazines that were like $80 to $100 a pop. They were ridiculously expensive. So this kind of lets people that don't have a lot of expendable income, have some kids, or are actually responsible with their budget. This allows them to kind of get more into the precision bolt action rifle build game, which is pretty awesome. I really like that Magpul did this. I just hope that in the end product looks not as I'd say like bubbaed out than the what is that Archangel stock for the Mosin Nagant.
Oh yeah, yeah. And being a Magpul product, I don't think it's gonna look that wild.
Yeah, I mean I'm seeing a pretty good picture on Kipstaton, or wait, how do you yeah, Kipstaton.com. He's got, for some reason, Magpul must be friends with him, and they let him shoot with the rifle and take some pictures. There's a pretty good picture showing the entire back end of it with this stock. It looks exactly like the SGA stock, and the grip angle. He's got a kinetic research group bolt lift on the bolt handle. Um, it's a nice looking stock, so I think this might be a nice, a lower cost alternative than getting an HS Precision or getting a Bell and Carlson and having it inletted for some bottom metal and then having to pay the expense of those magazines. I mean, that can get up to like $700-800. So this is much needed in the marketplace. Ugh, let me wipe the drill off my face. So
Yeah,
so that's the Magpul stuff. They got more stuff coming out. I'll talk about more in the next few weeks. Um, so the next thing that we're going to talk about today is something I got an email from Media Blast, and Carr is releasing a Gen 2 of their TP9 and TP45 pistols. So this is called the Carr Gen 2 Premium TP45 and the TP9, obviously 45 auto and 9mm. Have you gotten to take a look at these yet?
yeah. I didn't see anything. All I'm looking at their basic press release or whatever it was, and it doesn't really tell me the stuff that I want to know. Uh, I'm really, I really wish that they would in the 9 they would have came out with a double stack in that. Uh, with the TP9, make a TP9 double stack and just because it looks like they put a new, well, basically it looks like they took their TP frames and they stuck a new safe action style trigger in it so they can get a, it says it's 30% shorter than their Carr Gen 1s. They made a longer slide. It's now either a 5 or a 6-inch ported barrel. And it looks like the slides are cut out for one of the little mini reflex red dots, like an RMR or the loophole delta point or any number of those. Which the one thing that surprised me, they put tall sights on it, which I think is to line up with the dot they're putting on it. But I would figure with those tall sights, I'd want to, instead of having a ported extended barrel, I'd want a threaded barrel sticking out the end so you could put a suppressor on it.
Yeah, you kind of want taller sights for both of those reasons. One, to if you have a concentric suppressor, you know, that one that's not eccentric like the Osprey, um,
Right.
then you would be able to see over that extra bit of can. But it also works with that having that red dot on there, so you can actually look through your iron sights and not turn the red dot on. Or if your batteries go out, you can still use your iron sights.
Yeah, I'm really curious to feel this new trigger, see how much, Glock like or M&P like it is, because the cars that I've had, their old style trigger, it's long but it's super smooth. So I'm hoping this one is just shorter and super smooth.
Yeah. I mean, this would look like it's like a performance center, like custom shop gun that they're releasing out, and really, what their concept behind it is the accuracy. So the product video is a lot less about all the things that they've added to the gun and just having a guy shoot at a target that's 200 yards plus some change with this pistol, and I think he got like 6 out of 7 shots on this target, this steel torso at
Yeah.
over 200 yards. So it's like, yeah, that's cool. I mean, with 45 auto, no less. I mean, he must have maxed out the elevation on that loophole delta point, but it really looks tactical. and more for the range, maybe a little bit competition. The problem is that it it's a single stack magazine. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
So
Uh,
yeah, that wouldn't do all that well with competition unless, I mean, obviously you'd be in like, I don't know anything about competitive shooting other than a couple three guns, but if you've got a ported barrel and all that and the sights, I imagine that would put you in some kind of open class to where there's,
yeah,
no restrictions. So I don't think you'd have a magazine limit unless it's like a stage mag limit, but
yeah. Usually the magazine limits are for like the stock pistol classes and stuff like that. But yeah, anything usually with an optic throws you into an open class, and
yeah.
usually with those you want the most capacity you can get so you don't have to change mags. But they did a nice job. I mean, I like the angle at the front. It looks almost space age when you're actually looking at this thing.
Yeah, that angled what is that? The dust cover that the recoil rod, where that basically fits in. Instead of that being squared, it's beveled. Definitely gives it like a mean looking edge. So it looks like it's got a safe cam striker fired action. The grip is polymer, and it's got integral steel inserts molded into the frame that the slide rides on. It's got a serial tag on the grip frame. Um, it's
Yeah,
got a redesigned magazine base and grip, so it looks like it's got like a little ledge there for your last finger on there.
yeah. Some of their original magazines. I have a few 7 rounders out of their original K9, and they had a grip, a bottom like almost exactly looked like that. But they probably redesigned it, but it still had that little teeny lip, and it looks almost exactly like that.
Yeah. The recoil spring is a double recoil spring, so it's supposed to even further reduce felt recoil. Of course, it's got an accessory rail on the frame for your lights or lasers. Um, yeah, like Chad said, that the barrel looks to be ported with several barrel lengths up to 6 inches available. So you might be able to get one that's 5 inches and not ported, or hopefully some threaded options as well. And the slide itself is machined from high quality stainless steel bar stock, so it's supposedly a really high quality slide that they're making this out of.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
barrel it's a match grade polygonal rifled Walther Lothar barrel, which is supposedly producing the unparalleled accuracy and increased muzzle velocity, and that's kind of their whole concept behind this pistol, is more accurate, talking about not just the looks of it, but the performance. In fact, they're like, congratulations for them for like not trying to like, oh hey, look at this pistol, look, it's got all these extra doodads that everyone else in the industry who has a more aggressive, or I'd say, when I say tactical, I mean that you can add a bunch of accessories that might increase its function. But instead of trying to like rely on those to sell the gun, they're really like, oh yeah, we put a really good barrel in there and 45 ACP, 200 yards, bam, beat that with your 1911. So that's pretty cool.
yeah. You forgot to mention it looks like they made a reversible magazine catch for it. So if you're a lefty, you can switch it around and do that. Uh,
Yep.
so that's a nice addition to for some people. It doesn't really matter to me, but some people are left-handed. So
Yeah. I think overall this is going to be a hot item. I know the car has quite a bit of a growing following with people that really like their pistols. So if you're interested in checking that out, go to car.com and then look at I guess you can go to car.com/gen2-premium, or just look that up on their homepage. And they've got some videos on there that show the guy, working the action and working the slide, whatnot, and then doing some long range shooting and getting some consistent hits. So cool. The next product, oh well, I don't know if I mentioned that, but the MSRP on that I couldn't find, so I would just assume it's to be announced, probably at SHOT Show.
To be announced or too much for you and I?
Probably gonna be above 1,000. If it was under, I think I would choke on my tongue.
Yeah,
Um,
that's my guess.
yeah. So this actually leads quite well into the next new product, and it is a micro red dot sight from Loophole. So they basically have made some additions to their Delta Point, and they're releasing it in the Delta Point Pro. So I guess like there's a Delta Point 2 that like didn't happen, or they like pulled, and so they've re-released it as the Delta Point Pro. When your optic needs to be faster than your reactions, the Delta Point Pro is up to the challenge. It's got a lightweight aluminum housing, shrouded by a spring steel for the ultimate in ruggedness, while the aspheric lens generates a wide field of view with some of the best image quality ever seen in a reflex sight. They have a motion sensor technology that discerns any movement of the sight and automatically illuminates the illumination of the red dot, which is inset into a light tunnel to reduce the light signature in tactical situations. So when you turn it on and it's pitch dark in a room and you have it on a medium to high brightness setting, it's not like bouncing back and illuminating your face like the EOTechs do. I don't know if you're aware of that. Not like I'm worried about encountering a siege in a pitch dark hallway, but so it's kind of nice that they took that into thought when they're designing this. The auto brightness sensor immediately and continuously samples the current lighting condition and provides optimal reticle intensity, or this feature can be overridden should a manual mode be required. So that's kind of nice that they give you the option that if it's not bright enough for the device thinks it's bright enough for your ambient lighting environment, but your eyes aren't that great, and you like it to be brighter, or maybe you're shooting under the cover of a covered, sheltered outdoor range bench, but the target you're shooting at is in full sunlight, so it thinks you're kind of in the shade, but what you're shooting at needs a high intensity bright dot. You'll be able to override that and turn up the dot brightness. So it looks like it's going to be it's tested to be waterproof to 66 feet. It's a toolless, spring-actuated battery compartment, makes changing the battery very quick and easy. And then it's got a 1 MOA elevation and windage adjustments. Let's see what else. They've tested it on handguns to ARs from 22 caliber all the way to 458 SOCOM. So it's been tested on the full range of spectrum for popular recoiling rifles. Let's see, and there's two reticles that are available. There's a 2.5 MOA dot, and there's also a 7.5 inscribed delta. Inscribed, does that mean it's actually there's some kind of mark etched on the glass for aiming, or?
That's what I was wondering, if there's like an actual etched spot on there, but I couldn't find anything that saw. But then under their optional accessories, it lists a couple different mounts, but then it also lists a DP Delta Point Pro iron sight. And the picture that I'm looking at, you can see the little sight is like slides in the slot in the back. And I wonder if that's for use with that inscribed delta, so if your power dies, you can still see something, maybe?
Yeah, I didn't think about it being needed for the inscribed triangle, basically, or I guess delta is tactical code word for triangle. But I think maybe if you're putting this on a handgun and the rear sight isn't tall enough, it's kind of a flush or low profile rear sight, this would kind of automatically give you one that was taller or tall enough to see over the housing and through the window. That's interesting.
Yeah,
It does look like it is removable, so it doesn't doesn't come with it. It's an optional accessory. So if you're looking at the picture and you're like, well, I don't need one of those. I've got these taller sights on my, FNX Tactical 45. Then you don't have to worry about it because it doesn't come with that.
Right.
So
I was gonna
I
say.
do. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say it lists the specs here too. So, it only weighs 1.95 ounces, and you can get 50 MOA of adjustment, elevation, and windage. So it's not like it weighs anything either.
Cool. And then it looks like there's no locking screw. I know a lot of micro red dots have a screw that you tighten down, and it like prevents any adjustment from happening that you don't want to. So it's always a pain in the ass when you're trying to make an adjustment and you forgot to take out that locking screw. So you've been turning it and shooting and wasting ammo, and you realize that your shots haven't moved at all. So they don't have that on there. It's not needed. And then instead of using some kind of hex or Allen key screws for changing the elevation and windage, it's just a slot. So you can use probably just a regular coin or a flathead screwdriver to be able to move that. And so it's got, on the right side, there's a arrow with R. Obviously, that's going to be your windage left and right. And then the top, there's up. So, turn it counterclockwise to go up, clockwise to go down. So it's pretty easy to understand. The MSRP of either of those models is $599.99, so $600.
Yeah, I know they're expensive, but I think that's at the higher end of the market for these. So
Yeah, but I could see a lot of advantages that I'd be willing to throw in the extra 150 from a competing model.
Right.
It looks very rugged. It's got that outer shell that reminds me of an EOTech. That it's kind of like a spring steel shell that's kind of, if in case there's any kind of impacts, it's keeping the body, it's holding the glass from taking any damage. It's always been what I'm worried about is something so small. If I drop my gun and it lands on its top, that's going to take the full force of the hit. And if I'm going to spend, close to $500 on a sight, I want it to be able to almost be bomb-proof. So I think that if I'm paying an extra $100 for a $600 sight, of course, if that's the MSRP, maybe we get it a little bit lower. I think it might be worth the extra cost and longevity in the long run. And of course, Loophole, it should come with their lifetime warranty. Extended.
Yeah, it said in there that it does come with the Loophole Golden Ring full lifetime warranty, which I don't know what that means.
Well, and then it's made in America too, which
Yeah.
might be something that is the extra selling point to you. Because that's American jobs, and that's if something's ever happened to it, you don't have to worry about jumping through all the extra hoops with some of those other companies that make less expensive micro red dot sights. So
yeah, it's
definitely interested in seeing this in action.
Yeah, it's just made up the street from me, so.
Why don't you just pick us all up one, man?
Yeah, if I worked there, maybe that would work, but no, I don't. You should pick one up for us while you're at SHOT Show.
You know what? I'm bringing a vest with lots of big pockets, so I'll do my best.
Okay.
So if you're interested in checking that out, go to loophole.com, and then you'll find that, I believe, probably on the front page. If not, just look under the red dot sites and look for it. So next up, we have kind of a new, interesting weapon system that's coming out that I've never heard of, but it's a very intriguing design. It's called the Modern Weapon Systems ION, I-O-N. So Modern Weapon Systems is the manufacturer. It's a Missouri-based company that originally was exclusively involved with dealing firearms. The owner, his name is Ian McFarland, and he's got some experience in the automotive industry and some knowledge of machining and combustion and whatnot. And so that kind of led him to get into the firearms industry. Um, so he's putting together a this ion in several different configurations. So it looks like there's an ion P, which is a pistol. So it kind of resembles, an AR-15, but it's got a lot of some in the machining simplifications that kind of branch it away from the AR-15. If there was a family tree for the AR-15, this would be kind of on the farther branches because of its design. It's been highly modernized. So it looks like there's a P version, which obviously is just pistol. There's an Ion 5 with I guess that's a 5-inch barrel, and it looks like it has a little stock on there. And there's an Ion 7, which is the same thing, but a 7-inch barrel, an Ion 10, which would be the 10-inch barrel, and then there's an Ion 16, which of course would be the 16-inch barrel, and that looks like a skeletonized stock on it.
Yeah,
So
that's what.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's what I'm seeing. Basically, there's the pistol, and then there's the 16, which would basically be the rifle, and the others would be your short-barreled rifle. Is what I'm getting out of it.
Yeah. Now, the interesting thing about the Ion is that it's not 5.56, folks. It's built around the 22 TCM, which is very interesting. The 22 TCM is correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it sort of more like a 9mm that's been necked down to a 22 caliber bullet?
That's my understanding.
That's mine too.
It's pretty much that's what it is. In fact, Armscore makes some pistols in it. I think they designed the round.
Yeah,
And
I know there's some bolt actions out there in it as well, but yeah, there's a 1911 that's chambered in 22 TCM.
right, and I think some of those have conversions for 9mm, and I
Yeah.
think it's just the barrel is all you have to change.
So a guy that's got you can tell by his history in the automotive industry, he daydreams about combustion and efficiency in that combustion process. So you can tell, I kind of automatically just gather that, oh man, that he's probably really captivated by the 22 TCM caliber because it's so small and has such a stinking fast velocity for something that can come out of like a 1911 sized pistol. I mean, like fast. I can't quote the numbers off my head, but definitely over 3,000 feet per second or close to it. So he's basically building a family of pistols and rifles that are chambered in this round, kind of banking on it getting much more popular because of its performance and unique design of it. So it's utilizes the gas piston for optimal reliability, and some of the varieties will be available in select fire for law enforcement and military applications. So that means that there will be a dedicated SMG, a pistol, an SBR, and a rifle in the Ion line. So some features, it's an all billet construction, so it's all made out of a billet instead of forged. High tolerance, it's patented honed barrels, side charging, so it's not a charging handle to the rear of the upper receiver. Integral sliding stock system or optional AR buffer tube attachment. So those stocks I was kind of talking about for the Ion 5, 7, and 10, those are kind of collapsible stocks that are kind of like the SIG MPX, where it's really about saving space and getting the shortest length of pull possible when it's collapsed or for storage. It's got a nickel boron carrier system, integral PDQ lever, not sure what that is. The trigger is also nickel boron treated at about 3 pounds. The handguard is made out of carbon fiber. The magazines are 35 round magazines and the round itself is definitely capable of defeating body armor, and the inherently low recoil because of the round, and the melanite coating on the barrel and other components. So the MSRP is going to be about $1,700. Um, one other thing I forgot to mention about the 22 TCM is, unlike the 5.7 by 28, it's much easier to reload, which makes it a definite plus. Guys can buy the dies and possibly even resize the brass and form the brass themselves, which is something that you can't do with 5.7, and makes it kind of hard to want to commit to because the ammo is so high and you can't reload for it. I think the 22 TCM is going to be a lot more popular because you can reload for it. What do you think, man?
I think it's super cool looking. I think it's kind of a nice design, it looks like. And I like the collapsible stock they have on it that just kind of shoves in, but I still don't know about the cheek weld on those things. But if it were me and I was making this, I would also make it in a 9mm. I mean, with 35 round proprietary magazines and at a price of $16.99, yeah, I don't really see many people looking to buy it just off the shelf, just so they can shoot 22 TCM.
Possibly. I mean, it looks like because it's being offered in select fire models and models that would be classified as NFA items for us civilians, that he's really banking on this taking off in the military and law enforcement marketplaces, so that the capabilities of that 22 TCM round being able to defeat body armor are really kind of geared toward SWAT and other law enforcement agencies that are concerned about penetration for armored assailants or
Yeah,
armored threats. So
to replace all their aging MP5s, probably. I could see that.
yeah,
Yeah,
if they could make a conversion barrel to throw in there for shooting at the range cheaper for practice and training, 9mm, I'm sure that might be down the road. Um, I don't see a price on those magazines though.
yeah, I didn't see one either. All I saw was the MSRP on the actual guns itself.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. They really like this chevron, like so they in their some of their marketing materials they replaced all the letter A's in every single word with this chevron, so it makes it super frustrating to read. Like, okay, I get it. There's a chevron in the logo. I get it. You don't have to do it to every single stinking A. It makes it really difficult to read, and it's red, no less. Just a little graphic design rant there. But
Yeah,
it is cool that there's a side rail on the upper receiver of the chassis itself, so you can like mount a flashlight or um, some kind of uh, laser on there without taking up real estate on your handguard. And of course, you can afford to do that having a side charging handle on the other side that looks to be ambidextrous, because I'm seeing slots on both sides of the receiver. So that's really cool. Um, a big nod to him there. They kind of look like Magpul rail sections. So there must be just some threaded ports right there that you can install that rail on.
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I noticed in their picture down where they're kind of show a picture of the design. It does look like it kind of has a like separate upper receiver, lower receiver, kind of like an AR-15 does. Like you can
hmm
pull a few pins, and one of them looks like an AR-15 receiver pin or something. So you can just pop a different upper off. So yeah, if they do down the road make a 9mm or something, they'll probably just have interchangeable uppers.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it looks very interesting. I think it's kind of meant to contend with the SIG MPX. I know a lot of people are excited for that to come out, but this looks like it's throwing its hat into the ring as a potential runner-up, if not, you know, highly competitive alternative.
Yeah.
So if you're, I found the article on the firearmblog.com. I went to the website modernweaponsystems.com and couldn't really find the ion on there. So I put a link in the show notes to the firearm blog where you can read this article, and they've got all the images and specs on there too. So I would encourage you click on that link and go on over to their site and check out the details on that.
Yep.
So next up, I was just going to throw a quick mention out there. I had this in the show notes, and since we're talking about so many other products, Ruger did an SR 1911 Commander that's lightweight, so it's like almost the same as the Commander, except now the frame is made out of anodized aluminum, and so you're saving on weight. So you're saving almost 10 ounces of weight from your pistol, which of course Commander makes it easier to carry. Lighter weight makes it even easier to carry without pulling your belt down or weighing down over the course of the day. So they are offering that. It's got an MSRP of $899. As far that's $800.99. Sorry, it's almost $900. $899. It's not $8.99. I wish. So the capacity on that 7+1. Obviously, it should take larger magazines if you wanted to. The barrel's 4.25 inches, 4 1/4. So yeah, virtually the same as their regular Commander, or they can't call it Commander legally, but their 1911C or SR 1911C, same thing, just lighter frame. So you can check that out at Ruger.com. Go to their SR 1911 models, and it's the new one that they just added on there. So next, we're going to talk about the items for our main panel discussion of our Firearms Insider reviews. What did you bring for us to look at, Chad?
Well, I will go first. I finally put enough rounds through. I had purchased a Rock Island Armory 1911 in 9mm. I have since modified it. It's empty if anybody can see. To include it's got different grips, which are lock grips, which I did a review on a while back. I added a mag well to it, but for the general purposes, it is stock except for those two things. And what it is their Rock Island Armory model TAC 1911 FS, which stands for full size, and it is in 9mm. And I'm going to set it down for a second. It comes with Novak style sights, and let me get over here if you can see them. And so that's one plus. It has an ambidextrous safety, a fairly nice beaver tail grip safety, if you know anything about 1911s, with a bump on it to help to press it, commander style hammer, skeletonized trigger with an over travel stop, and as far as your general features, that's about it. It is a Series 70 style, so it has no firing pin block mechanism, so the trigger on it is actually exceptionally nice for a factory 1911. It is a Parkerized, not blued, which didn't really matter to me when I was buying it, but it is Parkerized, so that's always a nice thing to know. It comes, like I said, with the ambi thumb safety, the beaver tail. It does have a slightly beveled magazine well, but it wasn't, which is a nice touch, but I wanted something larger to make reloads quicker. The trigger is longer than the normal 1911 style. And let's see, they have little, I don't know if you can actually see it, but there's little lines right on the front strap here, which I don't know if it's supposed to help with grip, but I can't seem to tell any difference than some of the 1911s I've shot with just smooth front straps. And there, let's see, I must say the slide to frame fit on this gun when I got it was extremely tight, and I've put probably about 600 or 700 rounds through it now, and it's still pretty tight, which is really nice. I was able to keep, shots under an inch at 7 yards offhand with this, and it didn't really seem to matter what ammo I was using with it. I mean, some would shoot a little higher or lower, but for the most part, it functioned always. I have not had a single problem with it, with failures to feed, failures to fire, anything like that. It's been, like I said, 600-700 rounds. So the trigger pull came in at about 5.5 pounds. My trigger pull gauge is pretty iffy, but which is pretty decent for an off-the-shelf, budget 1911. I'm trying to think if there's a lot more I can say about it. It came with black rubber grips, which were not, they're okay, but they don't give the grip that I like. They're a, diamond pattern, typical 1911 style grips. The few things I saw that I didn't really like at all was the ambidextrous safety on both sides, kind of right here, where it kind of makes a sharp corner. I don't know if you can kind of see. It's really hard to see. They left it really sharp, and so basically anytime you'd use the safety, or sometimes under recoil, it would dig into the web of your hand or your thumb, and it would actually hurt. I mean, it's sharp. So that was one. That's probably the biggest flaw with this pistol. And then there were a few other things that I didn't really like about it. It only comes with one 9-round magazine, which for the price for the budget 1911s, you can't really expect anything else. So, and then the mainspring housing, which is this right here, is plastic instead of like some of your higher cost versions. They use a metal mainspring housing. So those are about the things, and now I'll go through our Firearms Insider key points. Claim to fame on it is it's an entry-level price 1911 in 9mm with actually lots of options. So you don't consider it a low-cost item, but more of a budget item, because you actually get a lot of additions and options for what you pay for. The target market's going to be shooters wanting a full-size 1911 in 9mm, which when I was looking for one specifically in 9mm, not everybody makes, or they seem to make one that's decked out with everything, so it's twice the price of these. The features and benefits: it's 9mm, it's Parkerized, it's a single action semi-automatic, which if you know anything about 1911s, is pretty much all of them. It has a 5-inch barrel because it is a full size. The total length is 8.5 inches. The height's 5 1/4. The width is 1.4 inches at the safeties, and then the slide width is 0.9. So, they're always pretty slim. It's got the Novak style sights, like I said before. and a post front, both are which are dovetailed into the slide. The rear has a set screw, so you can loosen it, adjust it over if it's not shooting correct, and then tighten it back up to help keep it from moving. It weighs in at 2.56 pounds empty, so it's not a very light gun, which some people may like, some people won't. I found that with 9mm in this heavy gun, there's literally feels like there's very little recoil. It's got the extended ambidextrous safety, beaver tail grip safety. Capacity is 9+1. And if you're interested, they make about 1,000,000 1911 style handguns. So you got to give them a look. I mean, they make everything from a base model GI all the way up to a high capacity, basically style for competition shooting. So what others are saying, it's kind of hard to find very many reviews. So basically the only reviews I could find were from Bud's Gun Shop, which I think everybody's probably heard of. And this one is from Preston O. This gun is amazing. This is my first 1911 and the first gun I've bought off Bud's. Took it out to the range the first weekend after I got it, put about 75 rounds through it without any issues, 0 issues. The gun cycles everything I've put through it. I've even hand cycled some Hornady custom 147 grain jacketed hollow points through this bad boy and still 0 issues. I've read that if you are going to run hollow points through this, then go to the larger bullet. Don't use 115s or 124s. I have read that they can have issues, but the 147s run perfectly. The gun comes with a metal form magazine, which I highly recommend for this gun. I bought a metal form 10 round and it runs perfectly. Again, 0 issues. The only thing I will say is that the picture shows the new model with a small logo on the rear of the slide, and he got the older model with what he calls a billboard on the side, and you can see on this one it's got the small, so it must be the newer model. And then also from Bud's Gun Shop, Andrew C. wrote, and Preston gave it 5 of 5 stars. And Andrew C. gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And it said, "This is my first Rock Island Armory purchase, and let me say it won't be my last. Fit and finish exceeds my expectations for a sub $450 1911. It shot great right out of the box, and with over 300 rounds through it, I've experienced no failures. Even with the sometimes sketchy reloads and cast lead bullets folks give me, it came with a nice brand name magazine, to which I added a slam pad. Accuracy is very good, and with a full-size 1911 frame, shooting 9mm, recoil is light. Now, why only 4 stars? My pistol came with a firing pin stop that I could not remove. I personally think they put a little, put a little too much finish on the slide and it got stuck. I sent it off to Rock Island Armory prepaid, and they fixed it, no problem. Now it is a really great pistol and one I love to shoot. I wish I could give it 4.5 stars, but this isn't an option. Anyway, I'm quite satisfied and recommend this pistol." Which basically those are what I found with it. I did shoot some 115 grain Spear Gold Dots through this one and didn't seem to have any problems. So, that's just might be this gun, or the other guy. I don't know if he tried them or not. So the price point, for all I could find, the MSRP is $559, and the retail, you can get them for $400 to $465. It depends on if they're on sale or not. I actually picked this one up, and it cost me basically $400. So it was on sale, and the dealer passed it on to me also. So I got a pretty good deal on it. If you need it now, you check your local gun store. That's probably about it. Otherwise, you're going to have to order it online. Our rating, For the pros, I gave it the price. The Novak style sights are a big plus. The extended beaver tail grip safety is a big plus also. It comes with a full-length guide rod, which not all models do. The extended skeletonized trigger's a nice touch. The beveled magwell's a nice touch. It's got a combat hammer. The trigger's really smooth, especially for an off-the-shelf 1911, and the ambidextrous safety. But, of course, under the cons, the ambi safety is very sharp. So, you may want to replace it or smooth it down or something to that effect. I didn't really care for the rubber grips. I don't care for the plastic mainspring housing, and it comes with only one magazine. I did give it a score of 8.5, which is great.
Right on. Yeah, that's just about everything you'd want in a modernized 1911 at probably one of the better price points you're gonna find.
Yeah.
That commander style hammer, check. The extended or the wider beaver tail safety, check. The skeletonized trigger, check. I mean, the only thing it doesn't have on there is a rail on the dust cover, but it's a pretty darn good looking pistol for the price.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to mention that I actually did not mention was I actually purchased this gun besides for me, but for my son to shoot. And one of the reasons I went with the full size was it's heavy, so there's little recoil, but it takes literally no force to move the slide back, which, if you've ever dealt with somebody that's, not as strong or doesn't have the biggest hands, sometimes that can be a problem, and that was a big plus with the 1911 and 9mm and for full-size guns is it's I think the stock spring, and it's like a 12-pound recoil spring, and it's literally just super smooth. You pull it back and you can hardly even realize you did.
Very nice. So this week, what I'm reviewing is the EXD Engineering Vertical Reticle Instrument. And I think this is something that a lot of you are going to be interested in and perhaps want to immediately purchase after you hear what I have to say about it. It's a handy little tool. I've got it right here. That's what it looks like. It's machined out of what it seems like aluminum, and it's got a couple V blocks on it. And it's got a bubble level and seems like a brass thumb screw, and you loosen the screw and you can slide this bubble level with a V block up and down this slide. Pretty simple in construction, but what this does is allows you to square and level the scope of your rifle to the barrel on your rifle or pistol or shotgun or basically any scoped firearm you have, with some exceptions, so that you can, when you're getting your scope mounted on there in the rings, before you tighten down the rings, you can actually make sure that your rifle is level, that your action is level in your stock, and that everything is squared before you tighten down those rings. So you still have to use a external vertical edge for reference in order to spin your scope clockwise or counterclockwise within the loosened rings to make sure your reticle is straight up and down. This doesn't do that for you, but what it does do is tell you that whatever your rifle is sitting on, being a lead sled or some kind of, if it's just a tripod and it's sitting on your shooting bench or your kitchen table or your reloading bench, it lets you know if your rifle is sitting square, perpendicular with the ground, with the planet, before you start fidgeting with whether your reticle is straight up and down or not. It sounds pretty simple, and I know people have been mounting scopes to guns for centuries without the use of a tool like this. But my gunsmith had one of these, and I watched him use it on one of my rifles that I brought to him, and I thought it was so cool. I had to look it up, see where I can get one myself, because that's kind of something that takes a lot of time for me. And if I get a new scope that would work best on one gun, and then I end up doing kind of like musical chairs, but with scopes on guns, and every scope needs to be re-zeroed or remounted on a gun, re-zeroed and whatnot. So this speeds up the process much, much faster, and it gives you peace of mind that you did it right, that you didn't just eyeball it and guess it. And for certainly if you're going to shoot a deer at 100 yards, 150 yards, you might not need to be so OCD, so obsessive compulsive about whether your reticle is square to your bore or not. But it certainly helps me, and I really like it. And I know there's a lot of people that are interested in something like this. So I'll just go through the main points of it, or I'll give you a demonstration of how it works. So I have my this is my 300 Blackout Remington 700. Let me take the front scope cap off there. So basically, this will work on any rifle with mostly any barrel, and as long as your scope is overlapping the barrel. So, like if you've got a revolver that you've got a scope on, like a handgun scope, or an air gun, or a muzzleloader, or a shotgun, these V blocks basically sit on top of the bore and on top of your scope, on top of your objective lens, just like this. And so the V blocks sit right on a spherical surface, so your barrel and your scope, and it automatically centers itself. So once I have both of these V blocks contacting these two surfaces, and I tighten down the little thumb screw, I can't really wiggle it left or right. It's set in there. And you can use a small rubber band to maybe rubber band it to maybe one of your caps or your turrets, so it really won't go anywhere. So basically, this lets you. Now I'm looking at it, and if I've got it in my rest in that bubble, it's just like an everyday, like a contractor's construction, bubble. If the bubble's not in between those two lines, my scope is not sitting square in that rest. So that means if I had not used this and I just, took a step back and, kind of eyeballed the reticle to appear level and horizontal with the horizon, or a vertical like window frame or door frame or fence post, the reticle would have been level, but my action and my bore is not. So that's no bueno, and that would translate to making adjustments on your scope that aren't true. So if you were shooting right, and you made an adjustment, you're not only moving left, but you'd also be gaining some elevation because you've got your scope on crooked. So that might be a little OCD as to depending on how you're shooting, and you're not going to notice that effect. But to me, if I want to shoot 800 yards, I want to know that if I miss the bowl or if my group is off, it's my fault, not the way that I had this scoped in there. And I've taken guns to big box stores before that claim to, oh, we'll bore sight for you, we'll get you on paper, for free. Just bring a rifle in, we'll take care of that for you. And so what they do most of the time is they tell you to just they loosen your rings. They tell you to close your eyes and shoulder the rifle, get a kind of a natural position, and then open your eyes. And then they just assume with your body mechanics that you're holding the rifle pretty much square, natural, and regardless of whether it is really true or not, you're going to repeat that every single time because of your body. And so then they would make sure that the reticle looks square, and then tighten out the rings, make sure your eye box is in the correct position, and then call it good. Really, and when you put that in perspective, that's really half-assing it, and it's not accurate at all. And one thing you'll notice is that if you get like a scope level, it's a bubble that you can add to your scope tube. You might mount this up and it appears right, and then you put that on there, and then you'll notice the top surface of your turrets doesn't match up with the top surface of this. So it kind of tells you that, oh, something's not right there, something's not level. So those are kind of the reason why I got this tool. Now, you do need a vertical surface, and what my gunsmith showed me, what he did is he kind of made a plumb bob. So what that is you take a string and you attach it to a weight, and you hang it from the ceiling with like a push pin or some kind of screw with a hook on there. And so once you let the weight settle, so it's not swinging back and forth, make sure you turn off the fan or the AC. But that's using gravity to make a perfectly vertical line. So then you set this rifle on a rest or surface, use this to verify that it is square and level, especially with your bipod, maybe it's not completely level. So once you're verified that your scope's level, or your rifle, your action, and your bore are all level and square with each other, then you can rotate your scope left and right and make sure that it matches that plumb line or that door frame that you're referencing. Don't use a telephone pole outside of your window. The city put it there. The city's not known for being perfectly accurate, so I wouldn't do that. But a plumb bob would be great. In fact, I wish that they included something like that. I mean, a fishing line, a thumbtack, and some kind of fishing weight would work. I wish that they had thrown something in the package with this, because then I could really see the value in the total cost in this. So Brownells has this right now for $46. I really wish that it came with some kind of line so you could do this, some kind of black string with a weighted washer or something like that. But it should be pretty easy for you to make yourself. It does come with instructions in the little bag. One thing that I noticed in the instructions that I didn't think about even myself is that to make sure your action that's been mounted inside of your stock is level. I mean, you can make sure that your bore and your scope are level, but your action of your mounted into your stock, you can take this and put it on the very end of your butt plate, and then that gives you the level of your stock as well. So you can verify on 3 or 2 different points on your rifle to make sure everything is squared up and level. So the reason why this is slotted is so that you can turn down the magnification on your rifle and turn down the parallax focus, and you should be able to, the light's going to go through this slot and enter your scope, and you'll be able to see your reticle and then the vertical edge that you're using for reference through this slot. And then obviously that the slot is where this sliding screw is. So the reason why it slides obviously is for different bore heights to scope sizes. So this will work on a 50 mil objective scope, or a 40 or a 30, and even smaller ones at that. So the only things that it won't work with would be a barrel that wasn't circular, which would be like I think Remington had a triangular barrel at one time. I forget what they called that, XCRs or something like that. Or more like rifles that have a rear sight, like right in that position, to where when you, depending on where your scope is set, when you put this on your scope and that the rear sight is interfering with this V-block, that would of course impede and you wouldn't be able to use it. So going through my review, the claim to fame is it makes zeroing your scope faster and far more accurate. Target market is basically all scoped firearm owners. Features and benefits: the self-aligning V-blocks, the thumb screw for tightening, the view slot, and the bubble level to ensure that your scope and bore are square during mounting and centering of your reticle, or indexing of your reticle. But other aesthetic options, it's only available in this unfinished aluminum. They do tell you to treat this very carefully and not to just haphazardly throw it into your tool drawer, because obviously if you knock the bevel, the bubble off then it's not going to give you truly accurate results. So be a little bit more gentle with it. And they have diagrams on how to you're using a door frame, or it looks like a line with some kind of washer on the end of it to get your center line. What other people are saying, pulled off a couple reviews off Brownells. This one says, I have mounted numerous rifle scopes, and this is the best device for leveling the crosshairs I have found. Actually, it's used to level the rifle and scope, and then plumb the vertical line of the scope. The other review says, this tool changes whether a scope is level or not from an opinion to fact. It's the best tool out there for leveling a scope. On some high-power scopes, the narrow window can be an issue, but it still works. And then the third review I found said, this tool is indispensable for quick, accurate, perfectly level crosshairs. No more excess time fiddling with back and forth alignment. If you're in the profession, you absolutely need this tool. It's a moneymaker. So that would be if you're like a gunsmith or an armorer, or you're charging your buddies to mount their scope on there correctly. So the price point, like I said, is $46. Click on one of those affiliate links we got to go to Brownell's website and purchase that from them. So if you need it now, available on Brownell's, that's where I got mine. So my rating, I'm giving it a solid 8.0. For pros, it removes the guesswork for mounting a scope and zeroing the reticle. Works with almost every firearm platform as long as the scope overlaps a round barrel. Even if you had like an AR-15, theoretically, as long as the edge, the very front surface of that objective bell of the scope overlap the barrel, you could like remove the handguard and remove the gas tube, and as long as the V-block contacted the barrel, you can get your scopes nice and level with there. If you had like a free-floated handguard that was round also, you could use that too. So it's compatible with oval ocular scopes as well. So if you've got one of those scopes that are kind of more egg-shaped or elongated, or I guess you'd say football-shaped, that still has a curved profile, so that V-block should still index on those. I don't see those too much, but every now and then someone's got an older rifle with one of those on there. So compatible with every firearm from rifles to pistols and whatnot. It just depends on if the barrel's round. If you've got a revolver that's got like a rail that goes all the way down the barrel, that's going to interfere with the V-block and it won't work. So like the difference between some Smith & Wesson revolvers and like a Ruger Super Red Hawk that doesn't have a rail going all the way down the barrel, it worked great on the Red Hawk or the Super Red Hawk and not so much on the other style of revolvers. So the cons, the barrels with iron sights, it might not work with this tool, not really the tool's fault. Leveling the reticle perpendicular requires an outside reference. Hopefully your contractor did a good job with leveling the door frames, but making your own improvised plumb line is my strongest suggestion. It's kind of expensive for what it is. It's just a tool that's someone made out of aluminum. It would have been great to see some additional value added with some, the string and weight and thumbtack to make your own line, or if they finished it, with some kind of anodizing, so it wasn't just, raw aluminum. But so overall, I'm giving it an 8.0, and I would highly suggest anyone pick it up, especially if they've got a lot of rifles and a lot of scopes, and they tend to maybe once or twice a year switch scopes on different rifles, get a new scope, got to put it on a rifle, switch them all around. I would just highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions. That was a pretty good review. It explained the couple of questions I had. So, yeah, I do not have one of these, but I can say I will be looking into one because I pretty much have not had any way to do this in the past. I had a bore sighter, but there's no way to, it just kind of lines it up and you're like, well, is it level? And that's kind of
some magnetic bore sights, they go onto the end of your barrel, and they have crosshairs, but there's no way to verify that that in itself is level as well, because it's magnetic and it's not indexing to your barrel or your bore at any point. So it's really just giving you a rough estimation so you can, move your adjust your windage and elevation so you're on paper, and then you can take it from there. A lot of those I've actually found it's way faster just to take the bolt out of the gun and just look down the bore with your naked eye. Um, but what I used to do is I had like an actual level, that was about like this big, and you'd lay it flat on surfaces, kitchen tables, things like that. If I had a scope that had turrets that had a large enough flat section on the top elevation turret, I would just try and center that level right on that turret, and then kind of rotate my scope. But that in itself was difficult, pain in the butt, and not all that accurate. It just tells me when my reticle is somewhat level with just the way that that bubble works with gravity and the world around us, but it didn't tell me anything about if my rifle that it's sitting on is also level. So your rifle could be canted on whatever surface, or the bipod could not be even, or the action might not be level in the stock for whatever reason, and you won't know that for sure. And so that's obviously going to affect optimal performance at long range. And if you're shooting at 1,000 yards and you make a couple MOA clicks, like you're gonna wonder, why did that go up, or why did that go diagonally left or right? Well, it's because your crosshairs are just minutely skewed, and that skew carries on exponentially at farther ranges. So I would definitely say that if you are shooting 500 yards and farther, to get one of these things, because you're gonna be the type of shooter that to more noticeably notice the faults of having a canted reticle. So there's that review. The Tech Gadget app this week, it's Target Vision's got a portable remote target changer. So what this thing is, it's a kind of a frame construction. It's a aluminum battery-powered wireless target changing system with AR500 armor plating. So with a push of a button, a user can roll down a fresh new target up to 600 yards away. The unit can be easily set up by just one person. So it minimizes the time that a shooter needs to run down range to put up a new target. And it's a perfect complement to if you use one of like Target Vision's remote wireless spotting scopes as well. So like they say, the range is 600 yards. The hardware, it's quick and easy to set up, lightweight, portable, and compact. It's got a 1-year warranty. You're shooting at it. I would hope it has a warranty. It's weather resistant, and it's got, like I said, AR500 armor plating. Its weight is 97 pounds. Assembled height, it's about 3 feet 6 inches. The target paper sizes are 24 by 24. And it runs on a rechargeable lithium-ion battery. Basically the target paper is on a roller that's motorized. It's got armor plating to protect the important non-shootable parts. And so as you press the remote, it turns the drums or the rollers, and it basically brings you up a new target. The MSRP for such convenience, to save you having to walk, $1,595. So
Hey,
I'm not quite sure if that's going to be as hot as I like it to be, because
that's
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 kind
a
of
lot of
expensive.
donuts.
That's a lot of donuts that you can eat while you're sitting on your butt at your bench and not having to walk 600 yards plus to go change out your paper
I was thinking
or
there's a
get
lot
in
of
your truck
donuts.
and drive. Go ahead.
A lot of donuts you could eat while you're walking the 600 yards.
Yeah. Um, this is cool. I think that if it worked with some of their like antennas, to where I don't mind driving to the 600-yard target to change out paper. Plan ahead, put out more than one target, so you can shoot a little bit longer. Um, if it had a range farther, like 1,000 yards, yeah, that would be something I'd be interested in, because who wants to drive their truck, 5, 10 minutes to 1,000 yards? that might not be accurate depending on what how good your truck is. Um, but it seems like there's not really a big return to me as far as, almost $1,600 for something that just, rolls a target, so you could give you a fresh piece of paper to shoot at. I think that it almost kind of defeats the purpose of some of their other targets that kind of you put one of their camera products in front of the target and then hook it up to your phone or your laptop, and it'll actually, you shoot and it kind of takes a snapshot, and then when there's a bullet hole it kind of overlays that previous snapshot with the current one, so like it's the same still image but your bullet hole kind of flashes, so you could essentially drop a whole magazine worth of ammo through the paper, and each new shot it's going to blink and show you where that shot hit, and then you can kind of see collectively where all your groups are. I think that having something that can change that out, I mean, I guess at some point you're going to want to replace the paper if you're changing to a different load or sighting in another rifle or a different one, but it's kind of expensive for luxury.
Yeah, luxury is usually expensive.
That's a wise statement. So if you're interested in that, go to targetvisioncam.com and then look under their products, and then I think it's under targetry, which I didn't know was a word, and if it is, I love it. Targetry, and it's the portable remote target changer. And there's also a portable remote target changer with a Pelican case, and that pretty much adds $400 to the price tag there to be able to throw it in a Pelican case just for it.
Yeah.
So we don't have any listener feedback this week. So in closing, make sure you listen to all the other shows on the Firearms Radio Network, especially the Reloading podcast promo. Yes, I'm still talking about that podcast. If you're a beginning reloader or a veteran reloader, or you haven't even started, don't even have press yet, and you want to get some more knowledge so you don't blow your hands off, listen to the Reloading podcast. Go to www.reloadingpodcast.com. You can listen to Mike give you lots and lots of information, book stuff, experience stuff, things that you don't pick up unless you're a seasoned reloader, rifle, pistol, I think even a little bit of shotgun reloading too. Give it a listen. It's kind of one of the must-listen-to podcasts I have, at least on my queue for keeping up with each week. So remember to listen and subscribe to this podcast as well. Check out all the other shows on the Firearms Radio Network at firearmsradio.tv/iTunes, and be sure to check the Firearms Insider website for future reviews and, more importantly, the SHOT Show 2015 coverage. I'm going down to Las Vegas this next week, and I'm taking a video camera and another camera, and I'm taking photos, I'm taking video, I'm trying to do some interviews, I'm trying to get some more products to bring onto the show for the listeners. So maybe I can get some products that can be giveaway items. I'm trying to definitely kick up the blogging aspect of the firearmsinsider.tv website. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And if you're curious about what's new at SHOT Show, what's the buzz, I'm going to be trying to cover as much as I can, as well as everyone else at the Firearms Radio Network on their respective podcasts. So don't miss that. And go on over to the Facebook page also. Look for Firearms Insider and give us a like. And that's it. That's the show. I will, next time you guys hear from me, I'll be in sunny Las Vegas, and I will probably be dehydrated with how much drool I will be exhuming because of all the cool stuff. So, Chad, thanks for joining me this week. I really appreciate it, buddy.
Yep, anytime, as usual.
Sweet. So everyone have a great week. Shoot safe. Stay warm. Catch you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.